Airfares for travels from Nigeria to other countries have seen a significant drop following the appreciation of the Naira. The competition arising from an hitherto domestic airline, Airpeace's debut on the Lagos to London routes. Now, the pressure on the foreign exchange market has eased as Naira on Monday appreciated to 1,340 per dollar on the parallel market, stronger than 1,408 Naira 4 kobo to a dollar on the official market. This represents an 8.21% gain against the dollar. Meanwhile, foreign airlines operating in Nigeria have begun to unblock their low-priced fares on Nigerian routes as the Central Bank of Nigeria completes the payments of about $7 billion of backlog, which includes over $700 million unremitted ticket revenue. This morning, Mendis, an aviation consultant, joins me for this conversation. Mendis, it's nice to have you around.
Thanks for having me.
So, foreign airlines operating in Nigeria are unblocking their low-priced fares on Nigerian routes. The CBN has completed clearing of FX backlogs, and we see the Naira also appreciating. Is it safe to say that good times are finally here for the Naira and Nigeria's aviation industry?
I think it's very preliminary to start saying that. I think the main issue with the Naira has been that it is still volatile. When you say it's appreciating, but an 8% shift, whether it's an appreciation or a depreciation, is not something that gives business a lot of confidence in terms of, making their plans for costs and revenues. What has really helped the aviation market, though, is increased competition, and that is always going to be a positive. Airpeace, as you mentioned, has entered the Lagos to London market, and that far and away is the largest single market from Nigeria, as over 500,000 passengers traveled between Nigeria and the UK last year, which dwarfs Accra, which is second place at about 200,000 passengers. So when you look at that, obviously, the increase of about 25% additional capacity in that market is immediately going to have an impact upon the marginal players, the players who are fighting on price for the bottom end of the market, and consequently, I think we have seen a response from them in terms of having to reduce their fares to remain competitive.
Now, we know that the situation in the country when it comes to the Naira is quite dicey as it is, but then we see that the Naira has increased or appreciated by 1,200 Naira. So I'd like to find out from you what the impact would be in terms of the sustainability of the airfare drop, looking at the current situation of the Naira, because a lot of Nigerians are wondering if the airfare reductions will remain proportionate to the Naira's strength.
I don't think you're going to see reductions significantly. I think you're probably going to see more stability. The main problem airlines have had is that the time between when they sell a ticket and when they're able to actually repatriate that money back into hard currency from Naira has been so long in the last few years that, a ticket that you sell when the Naira is at 400 or 450, and it wasn't that long ago, it was just a few years ago that the Naira was in that range, the Naira is now worth 1/3 that amount. So, airlines consequently have had to hedge their bets by increasing prices in Naira so that, they won't be completely out of pocket by the time the passenger travels, because you're paying for fuel when the passenger is flying, not when the passenger is buying its ticket. And I think as we see more stability in the Naira, even if that stability is going to be at the 1,300, 1,400 level, you'll see airlines begin to maintain their fares rather than constantly needing to increase them. But I doubt we're going to see significant reductions. That's just the reality of the situation.
So that hurts a lot of passengers more when they hear that they're not so sure if the price would reduce, because we are looking at the issue around the Nigerian currency and also the issue around taxes. The airlines are claiming that though they have released low-cost tickets, travel agents are saying that taxes are said to be inflating the final price. And this could mean that despite the appearance of low fares, taxes attached to the fares often inflate the final cost for travelers. So is that going to be a major impediment to achieving affordable air travel price? If we can have anything that speaks to these people having some sort of encouragement in terms of the Naira, and still taxes are being paid by the airlines to the Nigerian government.
Well, it's not just the Nigerian government. Governments all over the world have the impression that aviation is a light touch when it comes to taxation. So if you need to raise money or you need to make a show of being environmental, aviation tends to be the first thing that governments tend to jump on. But it absolutely is true. The taxes are extremely high in many cases. Let's use the example of Lagos to London. If you're paying 2 million naira for a ticket, of that 2 million naira, over 500,000 naira of that is going in taxes between the UK government and the Nigerian government. So about 25 to 30% of your ticket fare on a high enough price ticket is going that way. So you can only imagine that on low fare on lower fares, like say a flight between Lagos and Accra, 50-60% of that ticket is just in government taxes, and that has a significant effect in terms of depressing demand because passengers simply cannot afford to travel, and that again leads to a general economic downturn. So governments have to balance their needs. Aviation is a tool to increasing economic activity, and imposing taxation on it beyond what is needed to actually run the aviation system is probably punitive and has a regressive effect.
Okay, let's talk more about the low-cost tickets. Will this new competition and this new trend lead to revenue loss for other airlines who had before now jacked up air travel fares? Or this significantly puts an end to the exploitation of passengers by foreign airlines who might be making mind-boggling revenue?
I don't think you can say that there's been exploitation. I think, if anything, foreign airlines in Nigeria feel that they are the ones being exploited because while they may be charging customers, they haven't had access to the funds that they're selling tickets at for the last few years. So foreign airlines view that Nigeria has taken advantage of them rather than the other way around. And yes, certainly the consumer has suffered, but the consumer has suffered due to poor government policy making rather than any actions on part of the airlines. Now, going forward, I think that definitely, as I mentioned when we started the show, you'll see airlines, the indirect carriers on many routes, who will wind up taking the brunt of this increased competition in the market. You're not going to see significant reductions of fares by British Airways or Virgin Atlantic between Lagos and London. Those people have the corporate travel, the business class passengers, and so forth. And, they can continue to charge their 2-3 million naira tickets, for the passengers. It's going to be the other players in the market, the Turkish Airlines, the KLMs, the Royal Air Maroc, which are now going to have a less attractive product than Airpeace's new flights between Lagos and London, for example. And consequently, in order to make themselves more attractive to passengers, you'll see promotions, you'll see lower fare buckets being opened up so that, passengers will probably wind up paying less than they were literally as recent as last month. I've looked at the fares right now, and cheap fares between Lagos and London right now are available in the 800,000 naira range, and that's for the off-peak season. Right now. In the peak season, you're still looking at fares in the 1.1 to 1.3 million range at the low ends if you're flying, in weekdays rather than weekends. And these are numbers which, just a few weeks ago, you'd be struggling to find anything below 1.3 million in the off-peak season. So definitely we've seen a reduction. I think we'll continue to see a reduction in the off-peak season. And, hopefully as Airpeace shows its reliability on this London route, if they're able to show this reliability, their track record hasn't exactly been stellar in that respect. But if they're able to do that and more people are confident to buy in advance on Airpeace flights, I think, this trend will continue, and the fares to London will peg themselves below 1 million naira in the off-peak.
Okay, let's quickly talk about the issue around trapped funds that you mentioned a while ago. Now, we see that CBN recently paid off a backlog to foreign airlines. So would these payments not resolve the issue around the issue of trapped funds permanently, or do you think that it could lead to future delays in terms of price hike, probably ticket unblocking crisis? Do you think that is a major situation that might not go away, despite the fact that we see the CBN clearing the backlogs?
I think the situation has definitely improved. When we compare where we are today versus where we are a year ago, I think airlines are definitely beginning to get a little more confidence back in the Nigerian market and their ability to repatriate funds from there. But let's not lose sight of the fact that, as I mentioned before, tickets which were sold at 400 to 500 naira exchange rates are now being repatriated at 1,200 to 1,300 per Naira per dollar. So airlines have lost a huge amount of money already in this Nigerian market because of the delays of CBN in clearing their funds. Now, that's great in terms of sales going forward. And as I said, going forward, yes, there is access to liquidity right now at a much lower delay. And I think that's that's definitely going to help. But the trust between airlines and the government of Nigeria was completely shot. Nigeria had become basically an aviation failed state, and it's going to take a lot more than just a few months of available liquidity to rebuild that trust. I think the airline that was the most aggrieved by the situation was Emirates. They pulled out of the Nigeria market completely. Arguably, rumors are that they're going to be returning to Nigeria this summer. And I think something like that, and if that continues and they're satisfied that they're able to get their funds out, I think that things like that are going to be very big steps in terms of rebuilding the confidence that airlines had in Nigerian government consistent policy making and CBN's ability to ensure that liquidity is available both for the airlines directly as well as for the central banks who are doing the clearance on behalf of the airlines.
Okay, so we've talked about various internal crises. Let's scale it up a bit. Now, considering the volatility of global fuel prices, will potential fuel cost increases affect the airline's ability to maintain these low fares?
Yeah, and I don't think that's anything that's necessarily unique to the Nigerian market. Fuel is an unfortunate necessity for air transport right now until we've got electric planes, more widespread. You're going to have to fill up your aircraft with fuel to get anywhere. And as the global commodity, which is fuel, goes up in price, the airline's cost basis rises as well. Because no matter what kind of policy making each individual government will do, fuel being such a globalized commodity, you can only insulate yourself to such hikes so much. So certainly, increasing fuel price will affect airfares, not just in Nigeria, but probably throughout the world. And that's just the reality, unfortunately, of the aviation business.
Finally, Sean Mendis, before I let you go, beyond immediate cost reductions, how do you think that Nigerian travelers can leverage this situation to save on future international travel through strategic planning or probably loyalty programs?
Oh, absolutely. And, the key thing in order to get a good deal when traveling internationally is to be flexible. And that means, you shouldn't just say, oh, I need to travel on Saturday itself and I want a nonstop flight. When you are inflexible with your plans, you will wind up paying, it's a seller's market. But if you're flexible, if you're willing to connect, via Istanbul or via Amsterdam or via Casablanca, and you're willing to travel on a weekday instead of a weekend, maybe fly on an overnight flight instead of a daytime flight, things like that will always be able to give you much more opportunities to look at what's available in the market and to take advantage of promotions and sales which are out there. So if you're flexible, and again, as you say, loyalty, all airlines nowadays are pretty much offering some sort of frequent flyer miles scheme or similar. Sign up for it. You may not get your rewards on your first trip, but if you say you're traveling twice a year to London from Lagos, after maybe 2 or 3 trips, you'll have enough miles to maybe get yourself an upgrade or to get yourself a free one-way ticket or something similar. But you need to then, as the loyalty program name suggests, be loyal to one airline. So it's a little bit of a choice you have to make, whether you're going to choose to be flexible and chase the best deal each time, or whether you're going to be loyal and hope for long-term reward. So I guess each person's situation will be different, but as long as you keep these principles in mind, there are good deals that are going to be had not just this summer but going forward as well.
Okay, Sean Mendis, aviation consultant. Thank you so much. It was nice sharing this time with you.
Thank you.